New Orleans thrived under the warm glow of the setting sun, the humid air thick with the scent of beignets and street food as jazz music wove through the lively French Quarter. Tourists bustled about, snapping photos, their laughter mingling with the rhythmic strums of guitar players stationed on corners. The city pulsed with life, an endless stream of people moving in and out of cafes, bars, and small shops. Tyler Perry enjoyed walking through these streets whenever he had the chance, appreciating the vibrant energy that made the city feel alive. It was a rare evening when he had no meetings, no obligations, just time to soak in the atmosphere and blend into the crowd, unnoticed. As he strolled, something caught his eye. A boy stood near the street corner, small and wiry, barely noticeable in the constant movement of people. He couldn't have been older than 10, dressed in an oversized hoodie that draped over his thin frame, his sneakers scuffed and barely holding together. His face was smudged with dirt, but it wasn't his worn-out appearance that made Tyler stop. It was his eyes. They were sharp, constantly scanning the crowd, filled with something too mature for a child his age. He wasn't just looking around. He was searching. Or maybe hiding. Tyler slowed his steps, watching the boy move hesitantly between passers-by, murmuring something quickly before stepping back, almost as if he expected rejection. Most people ignored him, some waved him away, and a few barely acknowledged his presence before walking past. Yet he didn't stop trying. His fingers clutched a bundle of lottery tickets tightly, his grip firm despite the obvious tension in his posture. Every so often he glanced over his shoulder, scanning the street, his lips pressed together in a tight line. It was a nervous habit, one Tyler had seen before. He knew what fear looked like. Curiosity tugged at him. "Hey there, kid," Tyler called out, stepping closer. "Selling tickets?" The boy flinched at first, his body tensing as if preparing to run. Then, recognizing no immediate threat, he gave a small nod. "Yes, sir. $1 each." His voice was steady, but there was something cautious in the way he spoke, something that made Tyler uneasy. Tyler reached into his pocket and pulled out a few bills, handing them over without much thought. "I'll take some." He barely glanced at the tickets as he tucked them away, his focus remaining on the child. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated, glancing to the side as though measuring his surroundings, deciding whether to answer. After a beat, he finally spoke. "Eli." "Eli, huh? Nice to meet you," Tyler said, keeping his tone light. "You out here alone?" Eli's grip tightened around the stack of tickets. "I'm just selling tickets," he replied quickly, avoiding the question entirely. Tyler frowned slightly. He had spent years working with underprivileged kids, helping fund programs to support children from difficult situations. He had met kids who had lived on the streets, who had learned how to survive by keeping their heads down and avoiding questions. Eli was doing the same. Something was wrong. Before Tyler could say anything else, Eli did something unexpected. He reached into his hoodie pocket and pulled out a small, slightly crumpled envelope. His fingers fidgeted with the edges as if debating whether to hand it over. Then, taking a quick breath, he extended it toward Tyler. "Sir, can you give this to my mom?" Tyler took the envelope, feeling the tension radiating from the boy. His brow furrowed. "Why don't you give it to her yourself?" Eli's shoulders tensed. His fingers clenched around his remaining tickets, his posture becoming rigid. He swallowed before replying, his voice barely above a whisper. "Because I can't go home." The words sent an immediate chill through Tyler's body. His mind raced. What did he mean? Why couldn't he go home? Was someone stopping him? Was he in danger? 1,000 questions flooded his thoughts, but before he could voice a single one, Eli took a step back, his small frame tightening, his eyes darting to the side again. He was looking for something. No, someone. "Wait," Tyler started, but Eli was already moving. "Thanks for buying the tickets," the boy muttered before turning abruptly and slipping into the crowd. Tyler hesitated, debating whether to follow him. His instincts told him something was very wrong, but the envelope in his hand felt heavier than it should have, and something about Eli's urgency made him hesitate. Instead, he carefully peeled it open, his fingers brushing against the rough paper inside. The handwriting was shaky, the letters uneven but readable. "Mom, I'm safe for now, but they're looking for me. I can't come home. If I do, they'll hurt you too. Please don't tell anyone you saw me. I love you. Eli. A cold wave of unease settled in Tyler's chest. His pulse quickened. Whoever they were, Eli was terrified of them. And if he was telling the truth, then his mother was in danger too. Tyler exhaled slowly, his fingers tightening around the paper. He had been in Hollywood long enough to know that sometimes life was crueler than any script. He couldn't just walk away from this. Eli had sought him out. Why? Was it random, or had the boy seen something in him? A reason to trust him with this message. His mind raced through the possibilities. A child on the run. A mother who was in danger. Someone, or some group, looking for them. The situation was far worse than he had originally thought. Tyler knew he had to do something. He pulled out his phone, his heart pounding as he dialed a contact he knew would take this seriously. The phone rang twice before a familiar deep voice answered. "Denzel, it's Tyler. I need your help." Tyler Perry stood frozen, gripping the letter as his mind processed the gravity of Eli's words. "They're looking for me. I can't come home. If I do, they'll hurt you too." The urgency of the message, the desperation laced in each shaky letter, made his stomach knot. He had no idea who they were, but one thing was clear. Eli was in real danger and time was running out. The sounds of the bustling French Quarter faded into the background as he pulled out his phone, his fingers moving swiftly across the screen. The call connected after 2 rings. "Denzel, it's Tyler. I need your help." Denzel Washington's voice came through the line, steady but cautious. "What's going on?" Tyler exhaled, his eyes scanning the street where Eli had vanished moments ago. "I just met a kid, maybe 10 years old, selling lottery tickets. Something felt off, and then he handed me a letter for his mother. Says he can't go home because they are after him. I think he's in serious trouble." Denzel's tone sharpened. "Where is he now?" He ran off before I could stop him. "Damn. You sure this isn't some scam? I've met plenty of kids who needed help, and this one isn't faking it." He was terrified, Denzel. He kept checking over his shoulder like someone was watching him. Denzel was silent for a moment. Then his voice came firm and decisive. "All right. Where are you?" Tyler gave him his location. "We need to find him before whoever's after him does." "I'll make some calls. We'll need eyes on the ground." Tyler nodded, already heading toward the street where Eli had disappeared. His instincts screamed at him. Something bigger was at play. If Eli had run away, it meant he had escaped from someone, and if he had escaped, they wouldn't stop until they found him. Tyler knew all too well that children like Eli often got caught in the crosshairs of people who saw them as nothing more than property. Traffickers, abusers, criminals. They preyed on kids with no one to protect them. An hour later, Denzel arrived, stepping out of a sleek black SUV. "I've got a friend with the NOPD checking missing child reports. Kid's name is Eli, right?" Tyler handed him the letter. "That's all I know." Denzel read the note, his brow furrowing. "This is bad. If someone's chasing him, he won't last long on his own." They started searching, moving through the city, asking street vendors and shop owners if they had seen a boy matching Eli's description. Most shook their heads, but an elderly man selling newspapers near the docks finally gave them a lead. "Saw a boy like that earlier," the man muttered. "He looked scared, kept glancing around like someone was after him. I told him to get off the streets, but he just ran toward the warehouses by the river." Tyler and Denzel exchanged a glance before heading toward the docks. The area was mostly abandoned at night, rows of rusting shipping containers and empty warehouses stretching along the waterfront. It was the kind of place people disappeared in, where the wrong step could mean never being found again. They moved cautiously, scanning the darkened alleys between the buildings, their footsteps echoing against the concrete. Then, a noise, a rustling sound from one of the warehouses. Tyler motioned for Denzel to stay back as he approached the entrance. He pushed the door open, stepping inside. The air smelled of oil and salt, the dim light casting long shadows across the floor. In the far corner, barely visible behind a stack of crates, was Eli. The boy was curled up, his arms wrapped around his knees, his body trembling. Tyler took a slow step forward. "Eli, it's me, Tyler. You're safe now." Eli flinched but didn't run. His wide eyes darted between Tyler and the doorway as if expecting someone else to appear. Denzel joined them, crouching to Eli's level. "We know someone's after you, kid. Tell us what's going on." Eli hesitated, his small hands clutching the fabric of his hoodie. Then, in a whisper, he said, "They took other kids. I was supposed to go with them. But I ran. I know if I go home, they'll find me. And my mom." Tyler felt his breath catch. "Who are they, Eli?" The boy shook his head. "Men. I don't know their names. But they have trucks, and they take kids away. Some don't come back." Denzel's jaw tightened. "Traffickers." The weight of the word settled in the air between them. Eli had escaped from a child trafficking ring, and now they were hunting him down. Tyler knew that meant one thing. If they found him, they wouldn't let him get away again. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Tyler said firmly. But before they could move, the unmistakable sound of tires screeching outside sent a spike of adrenaline through Tyler's veins. Denzel reacted instantly, pulling Eli behind a stack of crates as headlights flooded the entrance. A black van had pulled up outside the warehouse, its engine rumbling ominously. The back doors swung open, and two men stepped out, their faces shadowed but their intent clear. "Eli!" one of them called, his voice sharp. "We know you're in there. Come out and this won't get worse for you." Eli gripped Tyler's arm, his breathing shallow. "They found me," he whispered. Denzel grabbed his phone. "I'm calling the cops." Tyler's mind raced. If these men were bold enough to chase Eli this openly, they had power. That meant connections, money, and, most importantly, other kids in their grasp. They needed to stop this at the source. The men took a step closer. "Last chance, boy. Make this easy on yourself." Tyler exchanged a glance with Denzel. They had seconds to act. Denzel kept his voice low. "We can't let them take him." "No," Tyler agreed. "And we're not going to." Outside, the men advanced. Inside, Tyler braced himself. The real fight was just beginning. The warehouse was eerily silent except for the heavy footsteps approaching outside. Tyler felt Eli's small fingers digging into his sleeve, the boy trembling against him. Denzel gripped his phone, whispering to the dispatcher, "We have a child trafficking situation. Need immediate backup. 2 armed men outside an abandoned warehouse by the docks." His voice remained calm, but his eyes were locked onto Tyler, both of them understanding the severity of the situation. Outside, the men moved closer, their voices low but forceful. "Come on, Eli. We don't have all night. You know running won't change anything." The way they spoke, casual, confident, sent a chill down Tyler's spine. These men were used to getting their way. They weren't worried about being caught. If they had the nerve to track Eli down in a public place, they had power, connections. If Eli went with them, he wouldn't get another chance to escape. Tyler's mind raced through their options. The warehouse had only one entrance, which meant there was no back way out. They could try to fight, but these men were likely armed. Time was their only weapon. He pressed a hand to Eli's shoulder, lowering his voice to a whisper. "Listen to me, kid. We're not letting them take you. Stay behind me and Denzel, no matter what." Eli nodded, his breathing uneven. The men outside weren't waiting any longer. A heavy fist pounded against the metal door. "Enough hiding, boy. Open up." Denzel tucked Eli further into the shadows before signaling to Tyler. The door handle rattled. A second later, the hinges groaned as it was shoved open. 2 men stepped inside, their figures silhouetted by the headlights behind them. They were tall, broad-shouldered, their dark clothes making them blend into the night. One of them had a jagged scar across his cheek. The other had a thick chain around his neck. The man with the scar took another step forward, his gaze sweeping the dimly lit warehouse before settling on Eli. "There you are," he muttered. "You've caused us a lot of trouble, kid." Tyler stepped forward, blocking their path. "He's not going anywhere with you." The man with the chain tilted his head, looking Tyler up and down, then glanced at Denzel. "Who the hell are you?" Denzel crossed his arms, his stance relaxed but controlled. "2 guys who don't like seeing kids get taken." The scarred man let out a slow breath. "Look, you don't know what you're getting involved in. Just step aside, and we'll forget we ever saw you." Tyler didn't move. Not happening. There was a tense pause. Then Chain Neck sighed and pulled out a knife, flipping it open lazily. Didn't want to do this the hard way. At that exact moment, the wail of sirens echoed in the distance. The two men stiffened. Scarface cursed under his breath. Denzel smirked. "You were saying?" The traffickers hesitated. They clearly hadn't expected the cops to arrive so quickly. Their advantage was gone. Tyler could see them weighing their options, trying to decide whether to fight or run. The one with the knife cursed again, then turned on his heel and bolted. His partner followed without a word. Denzel grabbed Eli, keeping him close as the headlights of approaching police cars flooded the warehouse. Officers stormed in, guns drawn, ordering the men to freeze. Scarface didn't make it 10 feet before an officer tackled him to the ground, wrenching his arms behind his back. The man with the chain tried to make it around the side of the warehouse but was quickly intercepted, pinned against the hood of a squad car. Tyler exhaled, the adrenaline still surging through his veins as he turned to Eli. "It's over. You're safe now." Eli didn't say anything. His small hands were clenched into fists, his eyes locked onto the men being shoved into police vehicles. His face remained unreadable, but his entire body sagged, the weight of the past few weeks pressing down all at once. A female officer approached them, her badge reading Detective Ramirez. "You the one who called this in?" she asked, glancing at Denzel. "Yeah," he confirmed. "The boy's name is Eli. He escaped from these guys. We think they're part of something bigger." Ramirez knelt down to Eli's level, softening her voice. "You're very brave, Eli. We're going to make sure these men can't hurt you, or anyone else, again. But we need your help. Do you know where they were keeping the other kids?" Eli hesitated. He looked at Tyler first as if searching for reassurance before finally nodding. "They moved a lot, but I know one place." Denzel's expression darkened. "Then we need to go there. Now." Within an hour, the police had raided an old shipping yard on the outskirts of town. What they found was worse than any of them had imagined. Several kids, some as young as 5, huddled together in a locked storage unit, their eyes hollow, their bodies malnourished. The traffickers had been running an organized operation, moving the children frequently to avoid detection. Tonight, because of Eli, that operation was coming to an end. The next few days were a blur. News of the rescue spread quickly, making headlines across the country. The police arrested more members of the trafficking ring, uncovering years' worth of crimes. Dozens of families were reunited with their missing children. And in the center of it all was Eli, the boy who had refused to stay silent, the boy who had fought to escape, the boy who had saved lives. Tyler stayed by his side through everything, making sure he and his mother were safe. Maria, Eli's mother, was overwhelmed when she was finally reunited with her son. She had spent sleepless nights fearing she would never see him again, and now, holding him close, she couldn't stop crying. "You're my hero," she whispered against his hair. As for Tyler and Denzel, they knew their job wasn't done. They had seen firsthand how easy it was for kids to disappear, how these networks thrived in the shadows. That was about to change. They reached out to organizations, funded initiatives to protect vulnerable children, and made sure that Eli's story wasn't just another forgotten tragedy. It was a turning point. A week after the ordeal, Eli sat beside Tyler on the steps outside a safe house, staring at the sky. "You really think it's over?" he asked quietly. Tyler put a hand on the boy's shoulder. "For you, yeah, and for those kids we rescued. But there's still more to do." Eli nodded. "I want to help. When I get older, I don't want other kids to go through what I did." Tyler smiled, a deep sense of pride filling his chest. "I think you're going to change a lot of lives, kid." And in that moment, as the city buzzed in the distance, as the sun set over the Mississippi, Tyler knew Eli's story wasn't just about survival. It was about courage. It was about hope. And most of all, it was about the power of one voice refusing to be silenced.